Yeah, we're live. 6:41. I had a schedule. So tonight we're going to talk more about camshafts, but we're going to talk about something interesting, and that is 8,000 RPM camshafts, because I found both of those in my staff stuff, and since I'm not going to use them again, I thought that I would put them up for sale along with a lot of other cams that I had sitting around. This morning I went over a bunch of cams and things that I had for Ford and Gen 3 Hemi. I had one small block Chevy cam and then some Gen 5 LT1 and L83 stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, I've got cams for those. I've got some big roller cams for 460 Fords. I also made a mistake. I have a set of lifters that I thought were Ford lifters, but they're not. They're actually, I have a set of new GM LS lifters. So I have those. I have 1.6 Ford roller rockers. So if you're looking for aluminum roller rockers, these are trick flow ones. And I have a TFSR 302 lower EFI manifold. But tonight we're going to talk about the LS cams, and we're going to start off with the two 8,000 RPM camshafts. So way back, what I did in the thumbnail that you see that's up is me putting a 4.8 liter DESTROKED, because DESTROKED and long rods, that's what makes all the power. We DESTROKED an LS3. So I took an LS3 block. We put the 4.8 crank in it. I had custom rods done, and then we custom pistons in it. And we made a short stroke version of an LS3, basically. So with the 4.8 crank in it. And so the idea was that, okay, I want to run this thing, we want to run it at 8,000 RPM. Little did I know that's I didn't need to go through all this to do that. I just needed to rev the motor 8,000 with a good camshaft that had stability, and it would have worked just fine. But we went all out, because not only did I do that, is I tried to get it to make power up there. So we put really good cylinder heads on it. I think we had airflow research heads on it. And then we also tried some I tried rec port heads on it and cathedral port heads on it. We ran Holley high rams on it, on both of those, so that part of it was kind of even. And I actually ran two different 8,000 RPM camshafts. One of them was recommended by Billy Godbold. He spec'd one out, and then the other one came from Brian and Brian Tooley Racing, and both of them easily ran to 8,000 RPM. One of them made a little bit more peak power than the other one. The other one made a whole bunch more low speed power. So for us, we were just looking for some sort of big number. And these both made over 600 horsepower. Out of this, I think was 330 something inches. If I did the math in my Wallace Racing information here, let's go to that right now. Wallace Racing displacement calculator. Enter our bore. That would be 4.070, I think is what we did. I don't think we did 465. And then 339 cubic inches. So we destroked it, put a long rod in it, and put new pistons in it, and then put really good high flow cylinder heads that would support the power level that we're trying to make. We had a high ram on it. There are other manifolds, obviously, that we could have used. And I think that on these, I ran, we also ran carburetors, because I wanted to, a carburetor would make more power on the high ram than the EFI would. Because we had charge cooling, and also the carburetor had bigger openings. So we had lots of opening and charge cooling and stuff. And we were able to, we put enough spring in it and set the spring up right so that we had, enough but minimum clearance to coil bind so that we're not letting the spring oscillate. And we had hardened push rods on it. I used, and I find this interesting, I used 5/16 push rods. I used these are probably 105 wall, or might have been 120 wall, 5/16 push rods. And a lot of guys I hear are going to 3/8 push rods on the LS stuff, especially on the high RPM stuff. I've never run 3/8 push rods in any of the things that I've done. And in fact, this motor that we're running now is 7,600 or so. That junkyard 5.3 and that just has an 80 wall push rod on it. Nothing special about it. It does have good springs. It does have a stable camshaft, and that's really the critical element when we're talking about lots of engine speed. Is that you if you want to make power up there, you have to have the other things like the heads and cam and intake manifold. But that's power production. But if you want it to be stable up there, the camshaft not only has to have like lots of lift and lots of duration, particularly, but it also has to be stable. It has to be a stable load profile. Otherwise, it's not gonna cooperate up there. It's gonna it could hurt itself, or it's not going to make power. But so I have both of those cams. So if you're looking for a genuine 8,000 RPM camshaft that'll make over 600 horsepower, one of them made 630, the other one made 610, I think. 607 and 632, and then the 607, both of them went to 8,000. The 632 one seemed to fall off pretty hard after 8,000, so I don't know if it was struggling with control up there. The other one was very stable and made as much as 40, or let's see, what is our torque output down here? Yeah, like 35 or 40 foot-pounds, 350 and 89 is 90. Yeah, 40 foot-pounds of torque down between 4,500 and 5,000, and it was better in torque all the way up to 72 or 7,300. So you get to choose. Both of them are stable up there. Both of them are making good power, just a little bit different curves. So depends on what you want to do. I have no 302 roller cams, but I have a lot of LS cams, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. So I have those two. So if you want what stalls you need for an 8,000 RPM cam, it's making pretty good power it made 465 foot-pounds of torque and was, let's see, still making over 400 foot-pounds. We never revved it below 4,500 RPM because we were going to be running a lot of RPM with it. So we started out fairly high. I didn't ever load it down low because that wasn't we needed to see what the off idle power was, because that's not what you'd be doing. And honestly, anymore, I wouldn't destroke the thing to do this. I would just leave the standard stroke in and we would make more power. You just have to put, a little bit more camshaft in it to get it to make power up there. And this one did. It made peak power up near 8,000. So those are available, but I have lots of other camshafts available. I have anywhere from, I think the smallest one is around 212. I also have new ones for 169. They're still on sale. The low buck truck and one step above that, which is 219. Those are 169 shipped. So if you're looking for a low dollar camshaft, I've got some of those. Send me an email. I'll put my email here, but it's also in the description of the video. So it's also in the description. So I have that, and I have those camshafts, but I have lots of others. I have others from 212 all the way up to the biggest one is 226 or 227. The cams, the 8,000 RPM cams, are up in the 250s and 260 ranges for getting it to make power up there. So if you're interested in cams, I got lots of them that are in the mid to high twos, 224, 226, 226, 236, 228, 232, 218, 227, 212, 218, 225, 232, 222, 232, 227, 244. That's a positive displacement stage 1 blower cam. So if anybody's interested in that, we got that one. 223, 227. And then I have one that is a single pattern. It's a 213, 213. So that should be, and it has 600 lift on a 112. So that thing should be fairly torquey, although I don't expect it to be, well, with only 213 degrees of duration at 50, it's not going to rev really high anyway. But I would start questioning stability at that lift and duration combination, but maybe it works well. 226, 230, and then the 251, 266. That's the 6,000 or 8,000 RPM camshaft. So if you're interested in those, I got lots of those are all used ones. I also have a couple of other. Oh, I wanted to look at that one and see. I have a Summit. Oh, that's the. That's right. That's the. I have a big nasty cam which we used in that video that I did. That's a 218 230 with 550 lift and a 105 LSA. So it's got. I think Brian was saying that they did that just to like have all the chop, and it probably does. So that's available. So if you're looking for camshafts, send me an email. Let me know what you're looking for. I'll make you a good deal on camshafts. I want to get all the stuff out. I've got one set of brand new lifters. They're in the box. It's still sealed. It's still taped up. I have a dual plane LS intake manifold, I think, but that's probably not here. And then I mentioned the roller rockers. Yes. So if you guys are interested in any of that stuff, we got lots of stuff going on. Let's see what you guys got going on. Bunty wants to be the first to make comments. There you go. Tim, what's going on? Robert would love to run 8,000. Would need transmission modifications to do so. Yeah. I barely trust my engine at 7,300. Glad to see you look healthy today. Thank you. What kind of stall would you need for an 8,000 RPM cam? I don't know, like a 5. 8,000 RPM at 600 horsepower, but it was a good motor. It was not just the camshaft. It was a lot of good stuff. Airflow research heads, a good intake manifold that wants to rev up there. Actually, given 8,000 RPM, I think I probably would pick a BTR Trinity intake manifold, although I'd like to see more airflow. Like I'd like to see a bigger opening on that thing. Just bought an LY6 with a comp 469 cam, carb setup, VVT delete. It came with a 750 double pumper and an 850 double pumper. Everyone's saying both are too big. Curious what kind of horsepower numbers to expect. You should not listen to anybody that's telling you that either one of those carburetors are too big for that combination. They obviously haven't seen what an LY6 with a 469, how much power they make. 823 heads, yep. That cam at 823 heads was, I think, like 540, if I remember correctly. Pretty good about remembering this stuff sometimes, other times. Here we go, yo. Final 469 comp cam. File, test description, LY6, LS3 intake manifold, but the LY6 makes the same power. Comp cam, yeah. It made 543.6 at 6,600. And on a 540 horsepower motor, you would at least have a 750. And I can almost guarantee you that as long as the manifold wasn't terribly restrictive, that an 850 would show more power on the dyno than the 750 does on that application. I had to modify the 4060 to turn over 5,500. I wonder if it's been to 8,000. I don't know. 4060s kind of scare me. What valve spring would you recommend for 8,000 standard 660 springs? No, we run the 5.3 that we have that we're spinning up at 76 or 7,700. We have the, I think that they're extreme RPM springs. For that matter, any idea why BTR and Texas Speed market some cans as LS3 NA when they will work with cathedral ports as well? They probably originally designed it to when they were testing stuff for LS3s. But as we know from somebody's testing, that when you run a camshaft, it works the same on other heads and other engine families. On other engine configurations. So it still works. In fact, the cam that I have in the 5.3 that we're running on the engine dyno with those trick flow ASCAS 220s that are now ported from the guys at Brian Tooley Racing, it has a stage 4 LS3 camshaft in it, but it's a 5.3 cathedral port. And guess what? It makes really good power. And it's a big cam, so it likes to rev. Came with an MSD box, LS1 timing control module that has the number 6 curve, but not sure how to tell if it's a 24X or a 58X. I would be concerned about the plug-in curves that they do. I didn't see any that I liked. We always put in our own curve when we're doing the MSD stuff. My 242 cam, in an LS7, that's gonna, that should have some chop. I have a little chopper here. That's a cam motion one. So that's a 595, 587, 222, 232, 108 plus 3. And they call that the little chopper. So if you want chop, that one will do it. I'm going to throw the cam from Richard into a lumber truck for my crew, LQ4 motor or LQ9. Yeah, it works for either one of those. I honestly wouldn't mind running one of them Holley dual planes on an LS. They certainly work well in comparison to the LS1 intake. Gen 4 truck intake I have is still better. Yeah. Dual quads do look cool. You can also run it as a fuel injected version if you get the fuel injected version with two 4150 throttle bodies on there, or put the lid on it and then just have a single throttle body. Watch your video when you tested the Pro Charger on a 700 horsepower LS7. The Pro Charger ended up making more than 1,000, might have been 1,200. Yeah, all you have to do is get a Pro Charger that will support that power level, and a F1A94 certainly will. Dual quads, that's right. What cam do you recommend for a 6.2 6L80 swap into a 94 daily driver that will eventually get a turbo on it, but not huge boost number like 6 or 8 pounds? I have two of the cam. I mean, I have lots of cams that will work on there, but the 2 cams I have that are new, either one of those will also work. The low buck truck or the one step above that, which is a 219. Both of those should work really well for a driver on a 6.2. Has anybody here run a GM TPI system on a small block 307? I've run them on 305s. It's an EFI and aluminum intake going to be about the same results. I don't know what you mean. The EFI is an aluminum intake manifold. All the tune port stuff is. It's going to do about what it does on the 305. Bought a 410 Windsor nitrous car. It has 220 AFR heads, which are excellent. 760 lift cam. Kind of run a bigger head with less cam for street ability, for drag and drive events. Stick car. Don't want to sacrifice too much. I don't know what you're going to do to get a better head than that. What head are you thinking about putting on there? That cylinder head information and how the cam doesn't really care what heads it has, or it's good information. It just, the misinformation was very prevalent in the industry. And part of that is because, cam guys want to tailor cams to specific things. And I understand that. Hey, this one has much more intake flow than exhaust flow on the cylinder head, so we should tailor a cam to that. Okay, but the things that you're doing to the camshaft are not going to cure that. That's like the things that you do to a camshaft are not going to cure the intake manifold. The 4-pattern cam is a perfect example of that. Well, let's make a camshaft that cures the fact that we have long runners and short runners on a single plane manifold. You can't do that. You can't change like the physical nature of what the thing is. And you may be able to help it or hurt it a little bit. But the reality is whatever change you made to that camshaft, if you tested it on another, like if you made it for rec port heads and you made it optimized for rec port heads and you tested it on a cathedral port head, it would still do that thing on a cathedral port head. At least all the testing that I've done, it's done that. Does chop affect drivability? Yes, those two things go hand in hand. Makes you smile while you're driving. I should have also stated on the 94 swap, it will be a stock converter. Yeah, so then I would pick the smaller of the two. I would pick the low buck truck. Would an LS3 with brawler heads, high compression, and a 250, 260 cam with a small LSA be more difficult to learn to tune Holley fuel injection with? I'm a carb guy. Yes, that's a big camshaft. It'd be much easier for you to learn on something that has a milder cam. If going GM parts, you'll need an 85. Kind of hard to find at this point for the TPI on the 307 unless you're changing to center bolt heads. Fun low torque street cruiser, but after 5800 it's done. It's going to be done long before 5800, I think. Is a TPI 305 and other guys video? Yeah, it's also a small bike Chevy video. It started out life as a TunePort 305. Holley makes tuning pretty simple. I just don't like how it works in AFR rather than Lambda. Why is that? Is it because you don't understand the connection between the two? Or Richard, do you have a cam for my LS6 with ported 243 heads for a C5Z? Yes, I do. I probably have 6 of them. Are you in the market for a new or used cam? That would be our first poll. Probably do a little poll on poll action today. What do you think of a small Chevy OEM 350 horse hydraulic cam? So like the L79 cam, I've run that before and we've used it, and also the same cam in the L46. That cam worked well. I think that I remember back in the day reading probably something that Jeff Smith did because he's amazing, but I think that was their best selling over the counter camshaft for GM Performance at the parts counter. It doesn't work. I mean, if you have that sitting there and you're going to put it in there, it will work good, but it's not as good as a modern camshaft. I can always use more truck motor parts. I got lots of truck cams here. It'll be a reliable cruiser with low speed burnouts on demand with no sweat. Yep. What do you advise on a 2,200 pound 4x4 sand drag on direct drive, no changing gears, 1-to-1 LS engine combo? It's a 350 foot race. So do you stab it from idle? I don't know how the sand drag goes. Is it a converter? There's no converter. There's no gears. So it's just idle to go is what you're doing. I would need to see the data logging on a race to see what happens when you nail the throttle. There's no changing gears, but is it a manual transmission? And how are you launching it? Are you launching it are you sidestepping the clutch or something? Like, are you launching at a higher RPM? Perfect for a stock 260,000 mile valve spring and 241 gears, right? Yep, that's all perfect. Yeah, you don't know what a ramjet is? Those are cool, but they're not going to make torque like a TunePort does. James, what do you mean a Vortex cam? Is there a reliable online retailer for TPI stuff? TPIS is still in business. What do you need to buy for the TPIS or for the TunePort stuff? Because lambda is one of a commanded AFR. It's easier for me to see the percentage of AFR error tuning in lambda. Okay, that's just what you've learned on. And for me, lambda means nothing. For me, an actual number, rather than having to convert it from lambda to a number, to the number that I have used since I started with cars. Much easier for me, but that it's just what you've learned. Manual transmission, only clutch to drive, transfer case. Okay. And are you clutching it? Like, what RPM are you leaving the line at? Getaway, you need some cams? You need a Vortec cam for like an L31 Vortec motor? Jesse wants to know if 5.2 Magnum mains are smaller than 5.9 Magnums. I wouldn't think so, but probably do a keep it simple build on my 5.3 and find a proper 4x4 drivetrain for it in case the Magnum 3.9 in the RX-7 does not work. Okay, well, I got cams for you if you're looking for cams. 4,500 to 5,000 launch. Okay. And then are you getting, if it's a sand drag deal, are you getting a lot of tire spin, or does the thing launch? Well, what I'm trying to figure out is, what does it load down to when you launch? How much are used LS3 cams? Do you want a stock LS3 cam? Because I have some of those, but I don't recommend that. We have lots of other cams. The new ones are 169 and the used ones are going to be 189. I want a cam, but I don't have cash. I hear you. I feel exactly the same way. I went for a run today. Did not feel good, but the runs for me are usually, if I'm running out in the country now, because it was a beautiful day, it was like 80 today, is me looking for lizards and snakes mostly. Any solid roller cams for a small block Chevy? No, I have a big hydraulic roller, a big 4-pattern hydraulic roller cam. It's a 476. I want to say it's 600 plus. I'll tell you what that one is. Tight lash, extreme. Firing order swap. 4-pattern. Here we go. Here we go, yo. Wait, but that's a 12 though, right? That's not. No, that's an 01. It's an 11. 54. There's some 12s. Here we go. Here we go, yo. 12, 476. I'm still looking. I'm still looking. Hang with me. Here we go. It's got to be right. No, it's an 08. Here we go. This one is 638 and 255 at 50. 255, 265. So it's a pretty good retrofit hydraulic roller. Smith, my email address I've already put up in the, if you scroll back on the comments, if you can do that, or I have it in the description of this video. I found a free LS bottom end. Nice. How would you choose a valve spring for an aftermarket camshaft? You would choose it. I choose it based on years of experience, but the first thing you look for is you need a valve spring that won't coil bind at whatever lift you're trying to run. So if you have a 600 lift cam, you need a spring that when you compress it, the coils don't bind together before starting at the install height. They don't compress together and bind before 600 lift. You also need to be cognizant of the retainer to seal clearance, because that's also an issue too, because if that hits, that's also bad. And then you need enough spring rate to control the cam for not just lift, because that's not really going to dictate the RPM range, but the duration. So if the cam, like in this case, we have an 8,000 RPM LS motor, we need enough valve spring to control that. But it's more than just spring rate. The spring frequency has to be matched to the cam, and the cam lobe has to be stable. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Do you have a good street cam that would make 500 horsepower from, is it a 6.2 LS? Yeah, 500 horsepower from a 6.2 is very, very easy. I have cams that will do that. But to give you an idea, when we run a 6.2 LS3 on the engine dyno, in stock form with headers and an open throttle body and an electric water pump, it makes 495 by itself. So getting over 500 is not hard. But a cam in a 6.2 is easily over 500 horsepower. Took my Gen 6 7.4 to the tuner and got a few more horsepower. Well, what did they do? Did they just change the timing and air fuel? Does anyone run electric turbo systems? I've never seen one in operation. Pretty easy to have the cam company match the spring. Yeah, if you look at the catalog, like this comp catalog, and they show you the cam, they also show you the other things that go with that cam. But what I've found, I have to say, and we've talked to them about this for years and years and years, is that when they recommend springs, that they didn't usually recommend enough spring. They were pretty tame on their, little conservative on their spring recommendations. What's the quickest way to make 700 horsepower in a 5.3 Chevy? Any kind of good cam, like that low buck truck cam that I have, springs, and a turbo. You have to have a pump and injector also to do that. But 700 horsepower with a turbo and a cam is not hard at all. What does knurling the pistons do? Well, they rough up the edge of the piston to basically take up piston to wall clearance, because it's when the cylinder gets worn out, and then there's a bunch of piston to wall clearance, and the piston can slop around. When they knurl it, it basically adds it adds diameter. It adds outside diameter to the piston. It's not something that people do much anymore. Really quiet turbo cam that'll go to 1200. Yeah, I don't know that the cam is going to make noise, right? Are you talking about the idle quality? My first build ever, I have a stock L33 that's going into an OBS Chevy short bed. Looking for the most bang for my buck combo. I want to slap a turbo on in the future. I want a fun street strip truck. My suggestion is to go smaller on the camshaft and then let the turbo make the power later on, because you'll be much happier with a smaller cam now. I'm not saying small like a stock one. I'm saying this camshaft that you put in would be a lot better than stock. But if you go too big on the camshaft and you don't make power till 7,500, that's not really a fun truck, because you step on it and nothing happens, and it makes less power than, and nobody wants to feel that. But on the other hand, if you put the right camshaft in it, and when you step on it, it goes. And then when you add a turbo, that means it's going to spool the turbo up right away, and it's going to go even more. I mean, what's going to happen probably are your tires are going to go up in smoke, but that's a good thing, right? I need a cam for my parents' 07 Suburban. I'm doing a DOD delete and like to put the largest cam in it with a stock injector. You won't be able to do that. The stock injector isn't big enough to feed a cam swap in most cases. Do you think giving away my old trick flow twisted wedge G1 small buck Chevy heads would do well for a YouTube subscription giveaway? These things are my arch nemesis. It's the LS swap. I don't know. Or do you have a YouTube channel? What I have found is giveaways do almost nothing. People get excited about it, like on a live feed if I'm doing a giveaway or something, but it does nothing for subscriptions. And maybe it's because I wasn't doing it right. I'm looking to add power, so not stock. Gabriel, what are you? Gabriel, did you want a camshaft? Is that what you're talking about? All of these cams are way under $300. The new cam 169 shipped, so that's way less than you were talking about there. Was also going to ask, I need headers as well. Will there be significant gains from short to long tubes with this LY6 combo I just mentioned? Yeah, I have header videos up, so you can take a look and see what the gains are. But long tube headers are definitely better. The shorty headers do almost nothing. Could I go supercharger instead of turbo? Yes, doesn't matter. I'm in the market, but my bank account isn't. Brandon, what camshaft would you recommend? I would put one of these low buck trucks in it, or I have some other smaller cams if you want to do something else, but that's probably, let's see. There are a couple others here that would be comparable, but they're all going to be a little bit more money. Not much, $20 or something. Let me win the giveaway for some 11Rs. Yeah, you think if I had 11Rs, that I would give them away? One thing people shouldn't do is skip on fuel systems. I agree. You got to have enough fuel flow. Good set of injectors is very little money compared to blowing the motor up. Yeah, you can't run boost, and you can't even run a camshaft, even a decent camshaft, one that's going to add 50 or 60 horsepower and still support it with the stock injectors. That's just not going to work. I don't think that they have that much extra leeway. Yeah, Paul, you'll need injectors after the summer working season for next winter's build season. I want a mother thumper for my 543. You just want the rough idle. So how many people are looking for camshafts? 68%. Good injectors are cheaper than back tires. Did they make a mother thumper for the 543 valve? I guess they do, right? So nobody wants a Cam Motion Titan 3. That's one less than a Titan 4, I guess. Just like saying mother thumper, yeah. You still have the Torquenator cam. Which one is that? Is that the Summit one? Is that the Lil Summit one? If that's the case, then yes. I think I do. Help if I looked at the right page. Stock flex fuel LSs will support a Cam Easy, just not an E85. Yeah. I think that the mother thumper would be Sam Jackson's favorite cam. I have to agree. Good points for that. Do you have a video on what springs and everything needed to build it with a low buck truck? I don't have one, but I can tell you, I can send you to the, in fact, I will be offering springs before too long here, but BTR has springs for it. The cams I have, the new cams are 169 shipped. The other used cams that I have sitting in my garage that I'm trying to get rid of are 189. Recommended cam for an LS3. You got to tell me what you're trying to do with it. Is it a stock daily driver? Is it a stock converter? Is it a 5-speed? Or 6-speed? 5-speed. Is it a 6-speed? Is it going to be drag race? What are you doing with it? I'm looking for a Trek Norse or similar. I have that. And any bigger cube, high RPM build. I do have some big cams. We talked about that. I have the 2 cams that we use to make more than 600 and rev to 8,000 on a destroked LS3. But I also have, and either one of those will work, but I have some, 228, 236, 232 cams that would work. Probably those big 8,000 RPM cams if it's a bigger cube one. I want to add power to my LS3. Well, all of these cams, every cam that I have here on the list, both the new ones that I sell and all of these used ones will all add power to an LS3. So that's the easy part. You just have to tell me what you're trying to do with this LS3. Are you racing it, or are you just as a daily driver? What are you trying to do? And then I can hone in on what camshaft will work best for that. Maybe I should send the heads to you so I can sit back and eat popcorn and watch you stress out running them. Why would I stress out running aluminum trick flow heads? It's a daily 6-speed Camaro SS, looking for something to add on for a solid 500 horsepower. Yes, I have that. Send me an email. But are you also driving? Is it also a daily driver? Titan 3 cam is 189. I only have cams. I do have one set of lifters, but that's it. I don't have springs. Looking for cams, just having a hard time finding a roller for a Oldsmobile 350. I'll bet. Trying to build a sub 2500 10-second car. Safety equipment not included. I have a 1.9 liter blower and a 5.3. Will be on methanol. So how much power do you need on the sub 2,500 pound car to run 10s? Is the 1.9 liter blower going to do that? Zax, I have a 218, 224, 111 cam. What do you think will do horsepower wise on a 6 liter with 799 heads on a factory bottom? Let's see here. It's going to be less than 500. Trying to see if we had any smaller cams here on that 6 liter. Oh, what happened when we ran that? That would be a good one. Oh, but we didn't. We ran that with sloppy stage 2 cam, but that was with cathedral heads. Yeah, I'm thinking that it's going to be in the. What did it do when we ran the? I'm going to look at my test here. I got some data. I got some data. So what do we run that on? Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking. I'm thinking like 475, something like that. Oh, sub $2,500. Oh, I thought you meant sub 2,500 2,500 pounds. Hey, T, you're afraid of flat tappet cams? That's going around. A lot of people. Aren't you in Riverside? If I were to buy the parts and you can't, I'm not in Riverside. Car is 1,800 pounds, aiming for 750 wheel horsepower. That should easily do it. That's going to be way more than a 10-second car. All right, Sean. The rocker studs back themselves out like every 15 minutes. There's no room to get a socket on the stud, so you can't torque them. You barely get an open wrench on them. That's how they were designed. What, TK? What motor is this? Oh, on the. Are you talking about that? You're talking about on the trick flow heads? They did that. That seems weird. Are they small block Chevy trick flow heads? Why would the rockers do that? Why wouldn't they just be on a stud like everything else? The lifters that I have are actually LS. They're not small block forward. They're 850-16s, which is either a small block Chevy or an LS. Jesse, so that they have a different main journal diameter. I remember that the 360s did compared to, I think, the 318s and the 340s, but I didn't know if they continued that on the Magnum stuff. About to break in another flat tappet cam on 468. I have to run another one coming up here too. A couple of them, in fact, a Pontiac and then a big block Chevy. Down to 60% percentavos. So we'll get rid of our pole there. Okay, is a 228, 232 duration cam too big for a daily driver? Do you think that that's too much camshaft? Does Edelbrock make their own lifters, or are they any good? I wouldn't think that they do. I would think that they'd source them, but I have no idea. Did you ever try running an M90 with and without the belt? Would the non-spinning M90 be too much of a restriction to show the parasitic loss and gains from boost at the same time? I don't know what you mean. If you run the thing without a belt, the M90 is going to be a dramatic restriction to airflow. It's going to hurt the airflow of the motor. It's not going to show you anything other than the M90 is restrictive because it's not designed to flow just air. It will flow air, and you could drive it like if you lost a belt or whatever, you could drive it home like that, but it would show you nothing for testing. One last thing, the stock LY6 bottom end. What's a safe RPM to run? This is my first LS swap. I'm just figuring things out as I go. We ran our LY6 to, I'm thinking it was 6,800 a bunch. Let's find out our. Yeah, we ran it to 6,800. It made peak power at 6,700 and was only down by 0.2 of a horsepower at 6,800. So we could have run it to 7,000. And I've run 6 liters in LS3s out there a lot. That's not too much, as long as the springs are cooperating in the camshaft. Gabriel, stock daily LS3 6-speed. It's an automatic. Okay, what cam should I get? You should get the low buck truck. I was wondering because if they were the same, I was going to de-stroke it. Would you bore an LM7 to 3905 or keep the stock bore for a turbo build? Weekend Warrior or street strip car? I wouldn't bore it. You might do an overbore on it if you're wanting to put a new piston in it, like a forged piston or a rod, but there's no reason to go out to that bore size. Not on a turbo application. I would rather have the meat in the cylinder, and you're going to be able to max out whatever turbo you put on there. So that's not going to be an issue. Without a belt, the blower would be a huge airflow restriction. Yeah. I'm not qualified to answer this poll question. Does an iron 6.2 block work better than aluminum one for boosted applications? I'm not aware of an iron 6.2 block. Is there one? I know that there are iron 6-liter blocks, and there's lots of aluminum 6.2 blocks, but did they make an iron 6.2 block also? We use, for real high horsepower stuff, guys don't use aluminum blocks other than the 5.3 aluminum block. They stay away from the LS1 block. They stay away from the LS2 block, and they stay away from the LS3 block. They use iron blocks, 4.8, 5.3, 6.0. And then the one aluminum block that they do use that has thicker cylinders and stuff is the 5.3 aluminum block. What are the specs on the low buck truck? It is a 212, 220 something, and 107 and 552 lift. So it's pretty easy on springs. What do you think about the Gatorman brand lifter? I haven't tested specific brand lifters, so I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have any data on that. Do you know the highest amount of lift you can get away without piston to valve clearance issues? The lift is never the issue with piston to valve clearance. It's always duration. It's not how far you lift the valve, because at maximum lift, the piston's way down in the hole. So that's never an issue. The duration is how long you're hanging it up there while the piston is moving, while how you're hanging it out in danger's way while the piston's moving. That's always the problem. I'm building a 488 tall deck LS, very cool. LS3 heads. I'll have a bed mount 80 millimeter turbo and run on propane. Will be in my 2500 2008 truck. What cam do you think will work? I'm curious about your combination of a 488 and an 80 millimeter turbo. Are you not wanting to make a lot of power with that? I mean, an 80 millimeter is 4 digits, but it's not like 488 4 digits. You could put almost anything in there and max that turbo out. Kyle, you want more cams? Didn't you order cams already? I think did I send your stuff out? Jim is for towing. On these trickle heads, they tried to make a 13-degree intake combined with a 23-degree exhaust, so there's no room. Oh, okay. Make custom guide plates. Send me a picture of those, TK. I'd like to take a look at them. I've run the older trickle stuff, but I don't know if I've run those. Order 3 low bucks. Okay, I thought so. Was that going to a business, Kyle? Noah, do I need to redo the transaction for the cam? What do you mean? I don't know what you did to begin with. Center bolt valve covers with a weird U-shaped adapter that just didn't work. Oh. So they were in make it work mode, huh? I had a TSP TR228 way back on the LS1. Thought it was a bit much for a daily, but cam profiles have changed a lot in the last 18 years. Waiting to see the poll results. It's a little bit of a trick question in that it would depend a lot on what the lobe separation angle was. Well, the valve events. It depends on what the exhaust duration is, and then the lobe separation angle, and then whether whether it's the whole thing is advanced or retarded. So the intake duration is not the only thing that's going to dictate that. I didn't put information into the PayPal. It only asked me. Here's the problem with that, Noah, is that when I go to ship stuff, I go to PayPal and then I use the information on PayPal to make the shipping label. And if I then have to go find out your name somewhere else and the information somewhere else, it just makes it really, really difficult to do that. I'll try to make a note somewhere here, but that's why I specify that whenever I send anybody information about cams, it says in the thing that I tell you, make sure to put your shipping information on PayPal, because otherwise the odds of the thing going to the wrong place go up astronomically when this happens. 427 sleeved LS2, the T56 and 01 Camaro. Zero idea of current cam, making 480 wheel horsepower, 490 foot-pounds. Okay. To the cam sheet and recommended 246, 262. I don't know what you mean by thoughts. Do you recommend LS6 springs for the low buck truck? They will work, but I think that BTR has a different beehive spring for that. For Dragon Drive Turbo 5.3 with stock 7. And it would also depend on what you're going to do with it. Are you going to rev it a whole bunch? I mean, this thing made peak power at, I want to say it's like, yeah, it makes peak power at like 6,000 or 6,100. Pretty good power at 6,500. So the higher the rev it, the more I would go up in spring rate. But if you're not revving it out very far, then you probably could get away with the stock springs, the stock LS3 springs. Okay, Kyle. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I remembered. I remember to shop. For the 228, 225, 600, 110 cam on a Gen 4 5.3. Would it have issues with piston to valve clearance? No. Have you ever run any roller lifters that use bushings instead of needle bearings? I don't think I have. You know, in the email, if you want me to redo the transaction, I'll just write something down, I guess, since we know. I'll take the Cam Motion Titan 3. I ordered the 219 cam last week. Has it shipped? Yeah, all of the cams have shipped. Can you ship both at the same time? No, I just have to ship the other one out. Milo says buyer and seller protection only applies if the shipping label matches the PayPal on file address. Where do you find the low buck truck cams? Right here. You're talking to the guy. You go. I have listed my email several times, and then also it's in the description of this video. So you could go there, and my email address is there. Send me an email address, or you use that email address. Just tell me, make sure you tell me your name, what cam you want, and what the shipping address is on the PayPal order. Yeah, Dylan, why are you running a reverse split camshaft? Oliver, you got some scammer tonight? Was it a a Nigerian prince or something? Would be better off if I went the other way around. Yeah, camshafts. Well, for me, I think that camshafts are better if they're not reverse split, or if they're not single pattern, or if they're dual pattern, favoring the exhaust. But it depends on what you're trying to do. We have done comparisons of single pattern versus dual pattern cams, and the single pattern cams sometimes can make more power down low. And if that's what you're trying to do, that's your goal, then that can work. I think honestly that's why guys do a lot of these single pattern and reverse split pattern cams on turbo applications where they're trying to get the turbo to spool up because you make more low speed power. But I still think that what I like doing is looking at what the camshaft NA motor, and then I base that off the boosted stuff off of that. Dylan, for a Dragon Drive Turbo 5.3 with stock 706 heads, what cans would you want? My question would not be any of those, although the Dragon Drive thing is important. My question is, what RPM are you doing this? Are you running this thing at when you race? What is your intake manifold, and what turbo size are you using? How much power are you trying to make? And then we can decide on the camshaft. Dean! Seems like you tested an Elgin Chevy ASA cam, something like a 225, 236. Yeah, I do have. I need to look at the. I don't have the specs on the two Elgin cams. I need to fill that in, but I have both of those. I know I have an 1838, which is a sloppy stage 1 out there, and an Elgin 1251, and then I have another one. So that those two were a little bit different in size. I have both of those, and yes, it would be for sale. Oliver, you bought a tracing service for a lost phone. They tried to use my info to scam me. Yeah, that sucks, man. Is 228, 232 duration cam too big for a daily driver? 68% are saying no. Everyone's saying, hey, Richard, you need to step up. Mostly looking for mostly low to mid-range power. Yeah, if you have a turbo and you have a turbo that's going to be used that's like, say, 1,000 horsepower or less, then I would put a low buck truck camshaft in it. Or I have a Summit 212, 218, or a Summit 218. Well, 218, 227s might be okay. That would be the next step up. Yeah, or the sloppy stage 1 might work. I was just a kid, but I think in the mid to late 90s, the elders of engine building really dug in on not using split profile cams. I think part of that is if you look at the early offerings from comp cams and stuff, like a lot of their Magnum cams, a lot of those were single pattern cams. Bum and grind. You can't see a list of camshafts because I didn't put a list up. I talked about them, but I have a bunch of LS cams. If you're looking for something, tell me what you're looking for, and I probably have it. I have new cams, the low buck truck, and one step up from that's a 219, 225. And then I have a bunch of them that are 225, 232, 224, 226, 226, 236, 228, 232, 218, 227, 212, 218, 222, 232. So if you need a performance cam, I've got one. The Summit Torquenator Stage 3 looks good for my application. I don't know what that one is. I don't know what those specs are. No, I know what cam you want. I know what cam you need for that, for a lumber truck. Did you ever post a video of trimming down the piston head of a Gen 5 L83 for a stage 3 or 4 cam? I never have done that. The guys at Brian Tooley Racing, I think, have one where they did that. Yeah, Calvin got his trucks and his Studebaker stolen. That's terrible. There is a GoFundMe thing, so you guys should try to take a look at that and help him out. $226, $230. That's almost like a stage 2 turbo cam or something. Yeah, so Dylan, if you're going to be 1,000 horsepower or less, then that's what I would do on a 5.3. How do you feel about a Summit Pro LS Series Stage 2 cam for a stock L99 with heads milled 25,000s? I don't know what that cam is. I don't know what the specs are on it. I don't know those off the top of my head. I have a Summit 8701R Stage 2 in my H2. It has a slight lope and is smooth through the RPM range. Put on a 92 millimeter throttle body, 30 over injectors, long tube headers, and a tune. Summit 8701. Let's try to see what that is. ProLS Vortec truck swap camshaft. 218, 227. I have one of those. No, that's a 524 lift though. But maybe that's not the R version. Yeah, I don't see that. Richard, do you have a 469 cam? I do not. Let's give it more power up top to pass. It's the revised version of the Stage 2. What are the specs on the one step up? It's a 219, 225. You have 2 cams coming, right, Jordan? Those are shipped. Yes, but I have since bought an LQ4. I like the sound of that. You can never have too many LSs, right? Yeah, so I have an endless amount of cams if for whatever you're looking for. These will solve a lot of things. I have the 2 cams that I have, and then I have basically some bigger ones if you want to go bigger. If you want to go big or go home. And then I have a couple that I need to look up. I'm not sure what they are. I just have specs on the end, or I just have numbers on the end of the cam, so I need to figure that out. Had a shot put in the Summit cam. Yep. I do not have a Comp 469 camshaft. In fact, I don't have anything that's really close to that. A 228, 232 would be the closest I have to that. Then I have ones that are bigger than that. Some 8,000 RPM camshafts. 226, 230, and 227, 244. Although I think that's a positive displacement blower cam. And then a 228, 232 would be the closest that I have to that. I have a Cam Ocean version of that, and then a Summit version of that. Both of those would be very close. If you take a look at the video that I did on we did a 224, 227, and then a 231 cam, and the 231 cam would be the 469 camshaft. And it makes a little bit more peak power. Everywhere else, they're the same. I picked up a 256, 273. Not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it was a good price. That's a good reason to buy it, right? That's a lot of camshaft. Is that an LS camshaft, or is that for something else? Is that like a big block Chevy camshaft or something? I have a 251, 266 cam for an LS. That's a really big LS cam. Is it a solid roller camshaft? I've never seen any. I've never seen that high a lift. Is that with a 1.8 rocker or something? Do you have any solid lifter LS cams? No. I mean solid roller cams? How much horsepower can the dyno at Westech handle? I think it'll go to 2,000, but they don't The new one goes even more than that. The new, what is it called? Black Widow or something. The new dyno that they have will go higher than that, but they don't. There's no reason to run stuff like that. Running real high horsepower stuff is hard on the dyno. What cam do you have for my L99? Circle D. What cam do you have for my L99? I have lots of cams for that. If you want to pull the 7200, what intake manifold do you have on there? That's going to dictate whether it, let's see here. So it's a 6.2. Left lane. I didn't even know anybody made solid lifter camshafts for an LS. Oh, that camshaft is a solid lifter? Okay. Oh, you have an ultra low ram? Okay, that'll help it rev. Yeah, this 226, 236 or this 226, 230, either one of those will make power up there. Just design your headers to sound like it's revving really high. You could do that, or just play a tape. Just play a digital audio file that makes that kind of noise. We got 1 more minute. Summit camshafts. I hope somebody gets these 8,000 RPM camshafts and puts them to use. Yeah, DA Hulk, just send me an email. We'll get you hooked up. 8-into-1. Yeah, I want to run some 8-into-1 headers. Or they'll make sound systems for the Ford electric trucks. That's the way to do it. You just play the music, and it just like sounds like I would have mine sound like a V10 Formula One car because I think that that's really cool. And specifically a V10 Formula One car going through the tunnel at Monaco. But really anywhere behind the V10 Formula One car sounds great. And on that note, it is time to go. What was the stroke of the 8,000 RPM LS3 motor? It was a 4.8 crank. You want to do a 3.8 250 crank? Yeah, you can spin a 4-inch crank to 8,000. You just the crank is not going to dictate what the RPM is. The valve train is going to. You have a Summit Stage 2 turbo cam. I think that's what this is. I think that the 226 230 is like a Summit Stage 3 or Stage 2 turbo cam. Cams do affect emission. And on that note, it is time to go, but I will see you guys all in the morning.